They have all the assets and resources and we don't.
Katt Williams is never a man to stay silent, and now he's come out with a bombshell about how the Hollywood elite are coming after Shannon Sharpe for knowing too much, because also went on to talk about how Hollywood's elite have very specific demands they want met in exchange for the glory and fame they off, so it's hard not to see why Shannon is now in danger. That being said, Katt Williams was not the only high-profile celebrity Shannon has had on his podcast. Monique is another big name that has previously dropped bombs on the internet using his platform. Can't deny about him the fact that he is brave, not being scared into silence. He went on to Joe Rogan's podcast to keep speaking his truth on what it's actually like in Hollywood.
Whole industries can be built upon your ability to know how certain things are going to hit certain people. And this was before important to all civilizations.
Well, propaganda in Hollywood movies is built into the ingredients list. It's like if you want flour, you need wheat. You're going to have to get the wheat.
Satanic rituals and sacrifices are nothing new in Hollywood. There's a long list of people who have come out and spoken up against it. For example, Nick Cannon pulled back the curtain on this 7 years ago.
I've heard all of the stories, but it's like when you see these men in power, in positions of power, and even when I find myself in one, when you have so much power, it comes much responsibility. I mean, it sounds very superhero-like, but it's real. So when you're in this position to change people's lives, and you hold the keys to what they consider success, you see a different aspect of the person. People will do anything to achieve their goals, and then people will manipulate and misuse that energy to get what they want. So you see a man in power, like it's a lot of, and then like even like that freaky weird pedophile shit that be going on, like you hear about it, but it's dark and demonic energy that this industry was built on. And people manipulate young women, they manipulate kids, and at the end of the day, it's all for the dollar and all to feed their ego. So I've seen some where you're like, that's not right. Like that person shouldn't be talking to that person. That person shouldn't be in the room with that person alone. That person shouldn't, but on the other side, what I've also seen is some very innocent situations get turned into things that have nothing to do with the person or the position in power, but because it was manipulated from the other side, it made someone who was just trying to operate within the system look better.
And some of these Hollywood elite have been linked to a cult run by the biggest names in the world. Most recently, one of them was outed for having let down his guard far too much with Jeffrey Epstein. It is incredibly suspect that he died in jail without ever getting the chance to snitch on some big names.
Before the autopsy was done, so I was there consulting, watching and the autopsy, making requests of things to be done if necessary as part of the autopsy. I didn't do the autopsy, but I was there for the autopsy. During the course of the autopsy, it became apparent that there was a ligature mark around his neck from where he supposedly died of hanging, and that there were multiple fractures of the bones underneath it. The windpipe was fractured in 3 places. It was more of a crush injury than a hanging injury. And that there were hemorrhages in the eyes, that this was more of a strangulation case, manual strangulation case, or a ligature strangulation by somebody else, not by hanging in a cell, because in hanging there aren't that many fractures. The mark on the neck didn't match the sheet ligature that was present in the cell. The photograph of and that this was more typical of a homicidal strangulation than of a
Were these people trying to protect by killing off Jeffrey Epstein? And more importantly, what lengths are they willing to go to protect themselves? It remains to be seen. but one person who's always spoken out against the elite is Jaguar Wright, and she even rescued people from Jeffrey Epstein's clutches.
There are 3 women I know right now in my life. They've been in my life for 6 years. I got them off of Epstein Island. I cannot say where they are in the world. What I can say is when they got into the boat, they were roughed. Want to know how they ended up on Epstein Island? They auditioned to be models for music videos.
Oh, casting couch.
When they got to Miami, they had to show and turn over their ID, and they collected their passports. And then the next thing you know, they were in a storage container getting by a bunch of weird strangers on camera who were bidding for all of the terrible things that were happening to them live online. After they made it through that, that's when they were sent to Rick Ross's music videos as groupies and extras to make sure that they could walk around in society without looking like victims.
We know Hollywood is a dark, dark place. For years, stories of wrongdoing and trailers on backlots at parties and in executive hotel rooms were thought to be gossip about celebrities. The 1921 scandal that possibly falsely implicated the well-paid silent film comedian Fatty Arbuckle sparked a lot of tabloid controversy. MGM famously covered up the case of a 20-year-old dancer, and in 1943, the swashbuckling actor Errol Flynn was put on trial for statutory rape. Many old Hollywood stars, like Judy Garland and Marilyn Monroe, who defined what it meant to be a movie star, dropped claims of harassment by male moguls in their autobiographies and other places, while we looked into the details of their overdoses as we tried to avoid talking about this kind of sexuality. Creeps like Woody Allen and Louis C.K. were putting their claimed bad behavior into their work by writing about sex offenders and girls dating older men. Even though a lot of attention was paid to what they seemed to have done wrong, studios and networks still gave them big checks. These horrible things have been happening for almost 100 years, and the attackers are some of the same men who, for years, gave other men's points of view a pass. There are sad facts that come out every year about how few movies are directed by women, and how few speaking roles are held by people of color. So whilst the internet has done more than its fair share of sleuthing, there's a lot that the world's elite are trying to keep hidden from everyone. That is the sort of thing Katt Williams and Shannon Sharpe have been trying to bring to light through their platforms. But will they succeed before they too are killed? Let us know in the comments below.